stopping no time soon. So, the Miami Heat, I call them goons from Dade County because you look at the makeup of their team, and they didn't have a lot of household names, but they had some guys that could really play and get down and dirty. You look at Goran Dragic, an underrated player, Duncan Robinson, a light out shooter. Tyler Hero is the stud. I got him picked to make the All-Star team next year. Jimmy Butler, he was a star before the playoffs, but now I think it's safe to say that we could put the super in front of the star, right? And then you look at Bam, and people make fun of me because I'm from the country, and I call him Bam out of the bayou, and I'm going to keep calling him that. But he's a top 3 big in the league. When you look at what he brings on the offensive end, dynamic roller, great handler, great passer, nice touch around the basket, super athletic. On the defensive end, he know how to anchor a defense, switch 1 through 5. The sky's the limit for the Miami Heat. They just didn't have enough star power to overpower LeBron James, and probably going to go down as a top 5 power forward in Anthony Davis, just a generational talent.
Right, and there's a lot of great talent on that Miami Heat team. There's going to be, and obviously Eric Spoelstra clearly disappointing in all of this, probably the most disappointing out of everyone, because he's taking the collective, no pun intended, heat for what did not happen, what did not transpire, how they did not get it done. Bam Adebayo did an absolutely fantastic job when he was on the court. The problem is that he's one guy who didn't have, if they had plenty of Jimmy Butlers on the court doing it all, taking control over game after game after game, then that'd be a whole nother story. Unfortunately, that just was not the case. You're talking about star power. You're going to have Hero, who's around, one of the youngest gentleman, the youngest man to ever play in a finals game ever. And one of those things that will go down is being able to drain those threes, getting inside, getting on the outside, passing the ball to the perimeter, making that ball count, and just hitting dagger 3 after dagger 3. When the Lakers tied that series up, I just thought to myself, man, is this how it's going to go down? Is this how it's going to go? I mean, are the Heat going to actually win this? And they had that power, but then you had those, you have Amadeo go out, then you had another gentleman who went down. They were almost handicapped to a point where you didn't think they were going to be able to get back on the floor in order to make that difference and to make up for what they should have had heading into. And you had players opt out. You had some guys going to different leagues throughout different parts of the world, wanting to play in Europe and wanting to play in France and Belgium and all of that in Europe, essentially. But I think when you look overall at what the Heat did not have, they did not have the firepower. And as you said, they didn't have the star power. And I think that's where the Lakers took over. Let's talk about the Lakers for a minute, because clearly there were a lot of things that they did do right, and then there were times where you looked at him and said, what are you doing? Why are you laxating when the ball is in the paint and on your side of the court? You're not running back to get the ball. You're not doing rebounds. It was almost a hit and miss between game 1 and game 2. When I look at Anthony Davis, and I think to myself, man, this guy is tall. He's beastly. You can call him Brown, you can call him whatever you want, but you can call him a champion now. When you look at what LeBron James brings, he brings everything. He brings the swagger, he brings the mentality, he brings the effort. And you guys were talking about GOATs. You were going back and forth with Ryan Clark about the GOAT-centric and the GOAT-orational, or whatever you want to use. Look, and I'm gonna try to end this argument as much as I possibly can. Why? Because look, Michael Jordan is a generational GOAT. I keep trying to tell people this, that Michael Jordan is a generational GOAT for those 90s Bulls. As many championships as he won, he was a GOAT for them. He is not the GOAT now. This is a whole nother animal. This is completely different altogether. Now, is LeBron James the GOAT of this generation? Absolutely, hands down. There is no doubt about it. And doing it with 3 different teams, are you kidding me? I don't know anybody else who's done that other than obviously one other person. But when you look at JaVale McGee winning one with Golden State, now clearly winning one with the Lakers. You have Green, who comes over from Toronto during free agency. He wins another one with another team. It just seems that the Lakers were doing so many different things and going about it the right way. And then you looked at Danny Green and he said, man, are you really trying? Are you over trying? Are you overdoing it? What's the deal? Times where he just went into this 3-point drought when you knew in advance that he could make those shots. Did anything about the Lakers concern you at all, between LeBron James having to take these games over or was it basically a group effort and everybody just came together and he turned into a willing passer when he needed to in order to help win this 17th championship for Los Angeles?
Well, I never was concerned. When you go back to round one, when they played the Portland Trailblazers and they lost game one, everyone was like, "Oh, Portland, this about to be an upset." I was like, "Hold tight." Next thing you know, gentlemen sweep. Okay, same thing happened with the Rockets. They play the Houston Rockets. You got Russell Westbrook talking noise to the wives and the kids after game one. Everybody like, man, we don't know if the Lakers can match up with them. What happened? Gentlemen sweep. Same thing that happened with the Denver Nuggets. People were scared, oh, if you don't have those perimeter defenders, you could beat the Lakers. If you could shoot the ball, you could beat the Lakers. Well, the thing about the Lakers that people didn't give them credit for is that times that Danny Green, Caldwell Pope, Rajon Rondo was not making shots, they were defending their tails off on the other end. The Lakers' perimeter defense was phenomenal throughout the playoffs, and people didn't give them enough credit. Danny Green, and I said this to a lot of people, y'all look down on him or y'all watch him but of his shot making. And yes, I understand that's his role. But he does other things to help win plays, active hands, deflections, offensive rebounds, taking on responsibility of guarding guys. Caldwell Pope, same energy. Rajon Rondo, we saw how frustrated he had Russell Westbrook in round two. And so when I'm looking at the game, I'm looking at each guy. And when you win a championship, you look at each game in particular, and each role player is going to help you win a game throughout the playoffs or help you win the series. And that's what happened with the Lakers. Kyle Kuzma stepped up at times. Caldwell Pope stepped up at times. Dwight Howard didn't play in the Houston Rockets series. Not that many minutes. Guess what? He played a huge part in the Western Conference Finals in taking Jokic out the game. He frustrated Jokic. He was the huge factor on why the Lakers were able to beat them. So as a guy that was a role player, I appreciate the little things that are brought to the table. The stars are going to be stars. We know that Anthony Davis can't be stopped. He could score anywhere on the bucket. It was Harold's chicken. And we know LeBron James was going to eventually turn up the way he did. Did we know playoff Rondo was going to take us back to 2008, though? We knew he had some juice, but he emptied out the tank. And so, job well done by the Lakers. And you have to give credit to Alex Caruso, because I strongly believe that this guy was the heart and soul of that team. He got them possessions. He took charges. He dove on the floor for loose balls. They inserted him to the starting lineup, and he made a difference. Frank Vogel, Jason Kidd, Phil Handy, you got to give them their props, man. They coach their tails off. It's not easy coaching superstars. It's not easy coaching a veteran team, a stubborn guy like Rajon Rondo, and make him buy into it. So, hats off to the Lakers. I rolled with them from the start to the finish. I wasn't concerned one bit.
Yeah, I can't say that I was really concerned at all. I think it was just a matter of putting the mentality, and of course you can talk about the Mamba mentality. We'll talk about Kobe Bryant, but I want to touch on this for a second. There was a mentality that this team had taken on. It was an idea. It was funneling through, and Frank Vogel did a great job making sure all these guys worked in concert together, worked together functionally. Did he have to do a lot of coaching? No, I think it was more of a personnel managing. In other words, trying to get guys to be on the same page, stay on the same page, be able to play together and be on the same page and on the same floor at the same time. But there were questions in regards to who the MVP was going to be. Of course, I had a question. You mentioned Alex Caruso. I call him Caruso because he showed off every time he had that ball, every time he got that ball, every time he rebounded, every time he hit that dagger three. It was Caruso. That's really what it was about. And I think his energy was something that everybody else on that court was feeding off of, whether it was a lob to Anthony Davis, whether it was to LeBron James, whether he brought up the offense. Is something that LeBron James really figured out about Caruso early on in the season before being bubbleized, is that Caruso is a guy who will take charge. He will trust in him to lead that offense, and that's exactly what he did. Let's move on to Rajon Rondo, because Rajon Rondo, obviously a lot of rumors swirling around, as they do every single season in every single sporting industry, talking about where Rajon Rondo is going to end up. And the Clippers are really just putting all chips in because they know how cerebral he is. The biggest question is, does Rajon Rondo move over to the other LA team, but some people call them the Squatters, or does he stay with Los Angeles and become maybe a coach per se, or do you think he's in it to win another chip?
Well, I think he's not done playing. And I think right now, Rondo value went up throughout the playoffs. And I think money is going to move the needle and be the deciding factor for him. You have to realize he was playing on the vet minimum. He opted out of a 2.7 that he would have been making this upcoming season. And I think that he deserves about $7 to $8 million a year because of his value and what he brings to a ball club. And the Clippers are in the conversation. You have to take it back to the Celtics days. Ty Lue and Rondo are great friends. Kawhi Leonard need a point guard. The Clippers need a leader. You have to remember when Kawhi Leonard was on the Toronto Raptors, he wasn't the vocal leader. Kyle Lowry was the vocal leader. Kyle, think about what Kawhi Leonard had to do in the playoffs this postseason in the bubble. He had to actually play the point guard. And you can see him getting frustrated for once. We never saw him show any emotions, but we saw it in the bubble. He was averaging 8 assists, 9 assists, getting 9 assists here and doing it all. That's not Kawhi Leonard's job. And so with a guy like Rajon Rondo getting added to the Clippers, you know who it would affect the most, and it would be for Paul George. Paul George would have the best season of his life if he played with Rajon Rondo, and I think the Clippers know that.
Well, do the Clippers buy all in? And does Rondo even suspect and even thinking about even recognizing that that's something that he wants to do is go play another 45 minutes every single night for 100-plus games if the season turns back to normal in 2021?
I do. Look, we talk so much about how great of a job LeBron James do of taking care of his body. Rajon Rondo also does the same. If you look at him, he has no body fat. He does a great job of getting treatment, lifting weights. Cardio is always on point. He's always in shape. When it's time to knock down jumpers, he's knocking them down. That means to tell me that he's getting that extra jump work in on those shots. And I don't think he's done. I think he wants to play more as long as he's compensated for it. I think the time that he feel like he's not getting paid enough is the time that he will walk away from the game.
So it's really about money. It has nothing to do because there was a conversation that he had with one of the sideline reporters for ESPN talking about that he could end up desiring to be possibly, if the opportunity came out, to be a coach. Is that something that you think he would probably opt in for, depending on the money as well, whether he wants to coach or still play?
Well, here's the thing. I don't see Rondo being an assistant coach to nobody. If he decides to coach, then he has a head coaching offer on the table. Mm-hmm. That's the type of student of the game. That's what Rondo is. He's a leader. I don't see him being an assistant. He's a head coach type guy. He's a guy that could walk away from the game like a Jason Kidd or a Derek Fisher and walk right into a head coaching job and probably go to a team and actually win games. So it would have the opportunity would have to present itself. I don't think he would do it right after retirement because he loves his kids so much and his kids are getting up into the age. I know Lil Rondo is playing football and basketball. Reyes the same age as my oldest son. They were close friends, still are to this day when we was in Boston. So he actually wants some of that father time before it's all said and done. But I don't think he's done playing.
Well, only time will tell. I think when you look at Rajon Rondo and his body of work, he's won 2 championships with 2 different teams. It seems like this is almost to a point where it's a one-year rental for a lot of players, especially in the NBA. And what's even more interesting when you look at the coaching situation and disparity between what the NFL does with African-American coaches versus what the NBA does with our African-American coaches, I think the NFL could really take a page out of the NBA book. And I've said this all along since before COVID even happened, that they would learn a lot from Adam Silver in the NBA. But I digress. Why? Because Roger Goodell is his own person. He's going to make his own decisions. But I think that when you look at guys, you're wearing a Raiders hat with Kendrick Perkins, who joins me. He's in Texas, but he's a Raiders fan. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But when you look at guys like Eric Bieniemy for the Kansas City Chiefs, who continues to be just an absolute force, working with guys like Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City Chiefs won a Super Bowl last year. So it just makes you wonder, how long will he get overlooked? And that provides the segue into what the differences are between a head coaching job, being African-American, especially in the times that we're in right now with the BLM movement and lots of messages that are really trying to get out there. And of course, you had talked about voting. Is it first time ever voting? Well, it was mine too. It was mine too. So I voted. For those that don't know, I voted. So you voted too. Wasn't that an interesting experience being able to vote?
It really was, and it was a difficult decision. I mean, because and I'm an honest guy. Watching the presidential debate, I can't lie, I was confused. I was confused. I was leaning towards one way for certain reasons, and I was leaning towards the other way for certain reasons. Do I think the world is going to change overnight, whether or not either one of them is going to get elected? No, I don't, but that's another conversation. But I felt like it was time and there was a need for me to take action and do my part and go out there and vote. And we don't know how powerful your one vote is until you go out there and do it. And it is powerful. And I slept well that night knowing that I went out there and did the right thing. Now, hopefully the candidate that I voted for, win the election, and hopefully we can see some change in the world, right? But it did feel good. My wife and I went out and voted, my first time voting ever. This is my first time actually really getting involved into politics. Hell, this is my first time ever watching the presidential debate, to be honest with you. So it was an interesting time because walking in the building, you have so many people like on the Democratic side, the Republican side, handing you flyers and brochures and telling you why you should vote. And I'm just ignoring it like, nah, I'm good. Don't get me. I already got my mind made up. This tunnel vision.
Yeah, I was kind of the same way. I kept getting phone calls and messages. Well, I just want to make sure you're able to get your ballot in, or if you had any questions, what kind of questions did you have about who you're going to vote for? And I said, I'm not telling you nothing. You don't need to know what I'm doing or how I'm doing or who I'm voting for. I'm just going to go and vote. Of course, you're talking about a lot of their tampering problems. Like, well, there isn't an election I could think of. There hasn't been any tampering problem with the voting system. But I really studied and almost found the Democratic debates, presidential debates, to be rather entertaining, to be quite comical, to be honest with you, because that caused a lot of confusion as to who I was going to vote for, and it had a lot to do with the substance. We're all talking about having the substantial person in the office, but yet, I don't know. The jury's still out. We're going to figure out exactly who's going to be president. But you know what? Maybe you should run, Kendrick, if you're into that kind of Kendrick for president. Doesn't sound good.
I could not see myself up there giving a presidential speech or whatever. Hell, I got a hard time talking on ESPN.
Well, that's good to know. Kendrick Perkins joins me here on the Rude Dog Show for about 10 minutes or so longer. Kendrick, you obviously wearing a hat there for the Oakland Raiders. Been a big Raiders fan. How did that happen? Being in Texas, knowing the Houston Texans are there and the Dallas Cowboys are right around the corner.
Well, let me give you a story, okay? First of all, I've been a Dallas Cowboy fan since I was the age of 12. I ended our relationship before the season started. Like, I'm just tired of the Cowboys. I got tired of going to bed on Sunday nights or Monday nights, pissed off and stressed out. So I decided to end our relationship. And I ended our relationship because of Jerry Jones and some political reasons, because I feel like he didn't speak out. He speak out about everything else, but he didn't address certain issues that was going on in America. That's one thing. I became a fan of the Los Angeles, of the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders, last year. But it was like a sleeper to me. I just liked the direction that they were going in. I'm a big fan of Gruden. I think he gets the best out of guys. I think I love his energy. But the Raiders are not my team. They're just a sleeper team. They're my second favorite team. My team is the Arizona Cardinals, okay? I'm Kyler Murray all day long, right? I think this kid is a top 10 quarterback in the league and is inching his way up. He is must-see TV, And I watched him last week and what he did to Seattle, coming back and winning that ball game, and he's just a stud to watch. So it's the Arizona Cardinals, and then it's the Raiders. I don't know if I'm allowed to have two teams, but the Raiders cap just fit right on my head and it matched the beard a little bit too.
A little bit of gray. I got the gray. I don't see no gray in yours, so you're definitely on the right track.
Every now and then.
Well, I am a Steeler fan, and anybody who knows me knows that. If you go to therudockshow.com, I was in Pittsburgh in 2014. Had a chance to interview Ryan Shazier, obviously no longer playing with the Steelers due to injury, but just had a great experience. It was fantastic. And I've seen the Steelers win 2 Super Bowls since then. So, it's just one of those things. 6-0, Steelers are on an uphill battle playing against the Baltimore Ravens this weekend. Always a test, always a tough match. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I was thinking. It's going to be a gun-style showdown in the middle of the saloon unless you can get yourself out to the street. So when you're in the street and all you hear is wah, 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 you already know what's going down, and that's really what it's about between both the Steelers at 6-0, the only undefeated team. You're talking about Seattle, who lost against Arizona. That was absolutely one of the best football games I've seen this season. Why? Because Murray did it. He got it down to where he needed to. He clocked the ball when he needed to. They moved that ball, and they moved the chains down to a point where you can give Gonzalez a chip shot to get it. Now, he didn't get it on the possession beforehand, but he got it on the last possession. I guess that's the one that counts, right? The one that you make, because Michael Jordan talks about making all those, hitting all those shots, but yet not remembering the ones that you missed, just the ones that went in. So that's one of those things that Gonzalez, I think, will probably have a memory of that one going in to be the game winner, ending Seattle's perfect streak. So you have 2 teams. I only have 1 team. So do you watch the Raiders play? Is that what I understand? You watch the Raiders and Cardinals play?
I do watch the Raiders play. I love their energy. And they play with this certain type of edge. They play with this like underdog mentality. Well, the Arizona Cardinals, I wanted to start with them because I feel like they're starting from the bottom. They got their foundation, their core is intact. Obviously, Larry Fitzgerald, he's going to be there forever, right? He's going to retire one of the best in the game. So I'm looking at them. They're going in the right direction. That is my team. But I do have love for the Raiders. But your Steelers, listen, that defense is one of the most stingiest defenses I've seen in a long time. And Big Ben is throwing that thing like he is on a mission. He came into this season saying, I'm going to address this NFL like the numbers on the house, and he's doing just that right now.
Yep, he's dealing it hard. Of course, that's an early game. Baltimore's favored to win the game. Why? Because it's in Baltimore. Ben Roethlisberger throwing 3 untimely interceptions, I might say, and not in the best fashion. Of course, never a good thing to throw interceptions, but the fact that they only minimized and the Steelers defense stepped up, and of course, you talk about Steelers defense, they haven't been 6-0 in over 40 years. So it just kind of makes you wonder where the Steelers team is headed being perfect. Do they stay perfect against Baltimore, or do you think they end up losing this one against the Ravens this Sunday?
I actually think the Ravens is going to win. I do. I think it's hard to play in Baltimore. Baltimore has a great defense. That front 4, they're going to rush. Big Ben is not going to be mobile enough to get outside of that. And they got great corners. So I'm looking at this Baltimore team. Lamar Jackson is hard to stop. I wonder if Dez Bryant is going to play this week. That's a question mark. But y'all running back from the Steelers, he's a hit and miss. I think his name is Connor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
He's a hit or miss. Like some days he look like the best running back in the world, and then some days you're like, where is he? Like I can't put my faith in him. And in order to beat Baltimore, he's gonna have to be effective, and I just don't see him doing that.
Well, it's really going to be up to that offensive line. They're going to have to control the line of scrimmage. The Steelers have been able to do it on the defensive side of the ball. And against Tennessee, it was the last minute miss by Gostowski for Tennessee that ended their perfect streak as well. So it was almost as if the defense did their job by only giving up that 3-point, it was basically a chip shot. Well, okay, it depends on who you are. Gostowski's done it for the New England Patriots, has won 3 titles for New England, yet couldn't find a way to hit a chip shot, which is kind of a normal, I think as long as like 56 yards. He missed from 51, and there was no time left on the clock. Steelers just burned the clock out and called it a day. And the reason why I think the Steelers are going to win is because they have Bud Dupree's been showing up consistently, tackles for loss. J.J. Watt on the outside corner making those tackles. You have Steelers defense that's going to pressure them all day long, closing those gaps. And then you have the rotation between Stephon Tuitt, Tyson Alualu. Those guys are getting it done. I remember having Tyson Alualu on my show last year, and he's a native Hawaiian guy, of course, and he's Polynesian, and he's really shown up this year. I really have high hopes for him, and hopefully in the offseason, Steelers find a way to restructure his contract and sign him on as his second year coming over from Jacksonville as a free agent. But I think the Steelers will definitely win this at the line defensively. Question or not is basically Ben Roethlisberger going to throw those unnecessary interceptions, instead should be throwing touchdowns. That's my biggest question for Ben.
Well, you just make sure you don't be hiding on Sunday, because I'm fine. All right?
I never hide on Sunday. I'm always there, up front and center. I tweet throughout the game. So if there was anything that I did between the Lakers and Heat and the finals, I was tweeting during the game. When the game was on Thursday night yesterday against Carolina, and just a very sloppy showing by Carolina on defense. It just kind of makes me wonder, what were they thinking, being able to miss those tackles. I understand it's wet. I get it. Basketball's always dry. It's a little bit different than playing in the NFL because you have to deal with all the elements. It's a different animal altogether. Kendrick Perkins joins me here on the Rude Dog Show. Kendrick, a couple more questions for you.
This is my problem, real quick.
All right.
This is the problem I have. The Steelers in Baltimore should be Sunday night football. They should not be playing the early game. Because if I'm not mistaken, the Dallas Cowboys have Sunday night football, and no one wants to watch them except to laugh at them. But carry on, bro. Sorry to interrupt.
I think the Steelers are going to show up. I think they're going to show up in a really big way. Whether or not they can stop Lamar Jackson, I actually interviewed Lamar when he was drafted in 2018 by the Baltimore Ravens, 32nd overall, and his whole mantra was, at least he didn't get picked in the second round, because we know second-round money is not like first-round money. And his mom was his agent. Believe that. His mom was his agent and got him that deal done. So, needless to say, when you come across other analysts, as they say, calling him a wide receiver or calling him some type of tight end, no, he didn't win a Heisman Trophy because he was a tight end. He didn't win a Heisman Trophy because he was a wide receiver. The guy's elusive. He's fast. He's quick. He's better on the run and completes more passing completions on the run than he does under center this year, which means that he's able to get out and with accuracy on the run, throw the ball and get it to an open wide receiver. It's going to be different this season because the Steelers have those corners. And when you look at offensively between Chase Claypool coming out of Notre Dame, man, that guy had a 3-touchdown game. Are you kidding me? That was absolutely fantastic. He's a blocking tight end. He's a great hands tight end, and that boy's got speed. He's got quick, greasy, fast, lightning speed. I hate to quote Rocky, but that's what it is. That's exactly what he's got. Kendrick Perkins joins me here on the Rude Dog Show. Kendrick, when I look at oh my gosh, I have to talk about this because it's been kind of burning underneath my skin for a minute, and I got to talk about it. New York Jets 0-7. Sam Darnold's questionable to play. He looks like he could play. The New York Jets have been absolutely horrible for so long, and when they played against Kansas City, of course KC's obviously favored to win that, being 6-1 this season. And I've always called out Adam Gase as being this very lackadaisical coach who can't stop moving in the seat that he sat in earlier today, as a matter of fact, in a press conference, and show him just doing this number. I'm like, dude, can't you just sit still and answer the question instead of moving in your chair all over the place? I just don't. I'm not a fan of Adam Gase. I understand he's a head coach. I get it. What do you think of Adam Gase and the New York Jets being 0-7? Tell me about that.
I think it's time for him to go. I don't understand, why is this rope is so long, and how he has so much leash, because he is horrible. He is horrible. I love Donald. I think that with the right pieces around him, he could be a stud. But they need culture over there. They need a rebuilding stage. They need foundation. And what having that, it starts at the top, whether that's going to get new members in the front office and getting cutting off the head of the snake and going and get a new coach and drafting well and signing free agents and get control of the locker room. Right now, they don't look like they have control of the locker room. Guys look disinterested. And when you have guys that don't have show interest, majority of the time you can blame the coach. Just like the Cowboys. Everyone keeps saying the Cowboys got a lack of effort. And some of that is true. But some of that got to fall on the coaching staff too, because if you got a lack of interest and you look and you're not giving your complete all, that means you don't really like this coach. I was an athlete. And if you like the coach, you're going to go out there and compete at the highest level. So the Jets need a whole makeover. Like, the women's get these makeovers. They come out they look like a 2 and then come out looking like an 11. Once they get these makeovers, this is what the Jets need. Makeovers, okay? Lipstick, eyelashes, whatever it may be.
Get their nails did. You get their nails did. You never know. Be able to catch that ball when they need to. Hines Ward is their wide receiver coach. He played for the Steelers. And I'm sure he's really shaking his head about what's going on offensively or lack thereof. I've been calling for the Jets to rebuild for quite some time. Adam Gase just does not seem to be the right fit there. And I don't know that the Jets will ever make that correction and get the right guy in the right position to do the right thing, and that's turn this team around. They've been abysmal for so many years, ever since Joe Namath. I mean, I understand they've had decent years, don't get me wrong, but nothing of a championship caliber as kind of year since Joe Namath. Yeah, they've been to the AFC East, but you have another leader in the AFC East, and that's the Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen not playing all that well coming out of Wyoming. Now they're in his third year, and I think to myself, man, is Buffalo legit? Can Josh Allen get it together? I mean, he just does not look the same, but yet they're still in contention. They're still there ahead in the AFC East. I don't know that it's a coaching thing. I don't think it is. I believe it's more about his production, quarterback play, what he needs to recognize and understand as a quarterback in order to not make those errors, not make those mistakes. When you're under pressure, you tell me, Kendrick, when you're under pressure and you're the guy who's not performing, how do you turn that around as a professional athlete?
Well, let me tell you this. When the season first started, we were talking about Josh Allen being an MVP candidate. He was playing that phenomenal. All of a sudden, teams start preparing for him a little differently. Now he has to make the adjustments. Now the coaching staff have to make the adjustments and say, you know what? They're loading up or they're playing it this way. Like, you're actually the focal point. The first couple of weeks, he was in the scouting report, but he wasn't the focal point. But, the thing is, when you're going through bad times, especially in a team sport, you lean on your teammates. You lean on your locker room. And I'm looking back, I think they won 18-10 their last game, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe kicked, 5 or 6 field goals. All of them was field goals against the Jets. Josh Allen was having some great drives. Like, they were getting downfield. They just wasn't completing the mission. I think a little fine-tuning, getting back, getting some rest, getting back in the film room, going back to the roots of things, the Bills will be just fine. Because one thing about the Bills, their defense ain't going anywhere. Josh Allen will be there. Maybe he's not 100% healthy, but he's still, as long as you come out with the win, you okay. Sometimes you have to win ugly, right? But at this moment, lean on your coaches, lean on your teammates, get through it, watch film, study film, become a real student of the game, and know that you're that guy. And remember that every time you go out there on the field.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. Look, at 5-2, the Bills certainly had the upswing, winning that 18-10 over the New York Jets. It was a close one, but a win is a win, regardless of how pretty it is or how ugly it is. You know how that goes. Things get ugly on the floor, and they get really clean on the floor. You can go through bad teams real quick, but for those that have those little pieces back and forth that can really kind of make you wonder, like, yeah, I have to adjust this. What do I do to make the adjustment? Do you think there's a mental adjustment along with a physical adjustment? Is it more mental than physical, or is there a give and take between those two?
It's all mental. I mean, once you have that game where you break out or those first couple of plays when you break the ice again and get back to finding your rhythm, then you hit your stride again. The NFL season is what 16 weeks, 17 weeks long. You're gonna have rough patches. Every quarterback go through it. And as the leader, as a guy that is still growing, I think that is just scratching the surface of his prime. He'll be just fine. I just in a couple of weeks we'll be back talking about him as that MVP type player again.
Yeah, I think so as well. Kendrick Perkins joins me here on the Rude Dog Show. Kendrick, man, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again because I know the NBA is not here, but the NFL is in full swing. And I'd like to talk a little bit of football with you if you don't mind next week.
Hey, look, I'm free, man. I appreciate you having me on. And look, I'll be excited any day to talk about my Cardinals and talk about Kyler Murray because he's the most exciting person in football right now.
Yeah, he is. He's playing his heart out. He's doing his absolute best. Thank you so much. Kendrick Perkins, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rudy Reyes. I'm here on the Rude Dog Show. Thanks for tuning in. This will be on YouTube. Yeah, exactly. The 1-2 punch for Kendrick Perkins. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back. Thanks again, Kendrick. I appreciate you coming on.
Appreciate you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Take care. Thank you.